So, hello and welcome to Prep Talk. I'm Amanda Darcy, a recent teacher, and I'm so excited to host this new series by Scholastic Education. So, join us for the next 5 minutes, and we promise that you leave inspired and ready to try something new in your classroom. For today's episode, we're starting with a very universal question: how do we get kids to read? So to elaborate on this, I'm interviewing the incredible 26-year veteran teacher, Evan Nisbet from Los Angeles Unified School District. Welcome, Evan.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm so excited to be here.
And we are so happy to have you. So, Evan, in all your years of teaching, what would you say is the secret to getting kids to read? Like, what is the magic equation that's worked for you and your students?
So this is a question I have devoted my life to. My passion is getting kids motivated to read. And there are three essential elements for any teacher to create a culture of reading in their classroom. But before I talk about that, I just want to emphasize, more than anything, teachers get to know your students. That first month, invest the time, find out what their interests are, their hobbies, find out what's exciting to them. What is their favorite book? Oh my gosh, that question on my survey is one of the most important because you can learn so much, especially if they don't have a favorite book.
Right.
So getting to know your class, that is the number one most important thing. So once you get to know your students, you can implement these three key elements in order to motivate and get kids reading. Number one is time. Teachers need to give their kids time. It's just like anything. If you're practicing to be a good swimmer, you need time to practice swimming. And it's the same with reading. And a lot of times it gets pushed to the side or, they'll do it at home. But It's so important because give them 15 minutes to get engaged in that book. And when they get home, they'll continue reading it. Okay, so it's not enough to have your 10 favorite books that you've had since you were a kid in your classroom library. You need, once again, to provide a variety of books, nonfiction, fiction, graphic novels, because you want to allow all your students to be able to find what interests them, what excites them. So if you have a variety of books to choose from, then there's a much more likely chance that your students are going to be able to find books that motivate them to read. Mm-hmm. And thirdly, the most important element is choice. You can do everything right, but if you're telling your kids and deciding for your kids what to read, you're taking away the joy. That's the exciting part.
I think the choice piece is so important because it does help kids learn more about themselves as readers too. And it sort of creates this, sense of identity and sense of ownership in their reading. And so all of this that you've said, Evan, it sounds easier said than done. So how do you go about making all this happen in your classroom?
So I decided to make it a challenge. And what I told them is they had to read 10 books in 5 months. Now, that may seem like, oh, no problem. But there's criteria, okay? First, they have to read the book. And thanks to Literacy Pro, it clocks their time so I can actually check and make sure they're reading the book. The second part is really important to me, just because comprehension is important. And a lot of times I think teachers spend too much time assessing. And what's great with Literacy Pro, they have a Think More quiz, and it's 10 questions, multiple choice. It's up to you to dig deeper, when you're in seminar or other areas. But for this purpose, I just wanted to know that they could answer 6 or 7 questions. So if they got 60% or higher, that's the criteria they met. And the final one was to write a review. And that is very telling because not only do they have to give a brief summary, but they have to tell something they like, something they didn't like. So you also get an idea of, did they understand the book? What were their thoughts on it? And believe me, you can tell because some of them are like book critics from LA Times. I mean, they're writing like 2 paragraphs with quotes from the book and page number. So it gets, and that's what's so exciting is every child is doing it at the level they can do it. And so it's very differentiated. And I found it to be very successful.
That's amazing to hear. I mean, it sounds like your kids enjoyed it. They're not just reading to read, they're reading for enjoyment. And I really think that's the dream. That's the goal right there. And I'm such a fan of the accountability piece, the reflection, the comprehension check. And I think you really hit on so many great tips. And together, it was just this great solution for you and your students. And so could you explain a little more about the results?
The results were so quick because the kids went from not reading to reading daily. And they were not only reading at school, but they were reading at home because I can track it. So, the engagement was almost immediate. I mean, they were so excited.
I feel like this was such a good prep talk. It was the prep talk we all needed. And I want to thank you so much for sharing. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. And I hope to chat with you again soon.
Oh, it was a thrill. Thank you so much. I hope to see you soon too.
And now we'd love to hear from all of you out there. Have you tried something in your classroom that got your kids wanting to read more? We are genuinely interested in your ideas and your experiences, as are all of the educators watching. So please share in the comments below and join us next time on Prep Talk.